this evening. Today, we are very glad and honored to have with us Professor Subodha Kumar from the Temple University. Professor Subodha will talk about emerging business analytics and disruptive technologies related issues in cross-functional areas in operations management, information systems, marketing, and other related domains. So I would like to take some time to talk about Subodha's profile. Professor Subodha is the Paul R. Anderson Distinguished Chair Professor of Marketing and Supply Chain Management and the founding director of the Center for Business Analytics and Disruptive Technologies at Temple University's Fox School of Business. He also has secondary appointments in information systems and statistical science departments. He also serves as a PhD concentration advisor for operations and supply chain management. He's the board of several organizations. He has several awards. In particular, he also has this Changjian Scholars Chair professorship by the China's Ministry of Education. He's a visiting faculty in many places, including ISB in India, University of Washington, and he has been the faculty at University of Washington and Texas A&M. He has been the keynote speaker and track cluster chairs of leading conferences. He's also a POMS Fellow in 2019. He has numerous research and teaching awards. He has published more than 150 papers in reputed journals and has been ranked #1 worldwide in publishing in ISR, which is one of the topmost journal in information systems. He has co-authored many books chapters, business cases. He has given several talks in media outlets. He is currently the deputy editor of POM Journal and founding executive editor of Management and Business Review Journal. He has served on several other editorial boards of leading journals. He was a conference chair of POMS 2018 and DSI 2018. Well, these are some of these background, but most importantly, what I and many of my fellow academicians admire about Professor Subodha is his work is uniquely positioned at the interface of multiple functional areas, and he does that really well. So there are very few faculty who works at the cross intersection of multiple areas, and he's one among them. So we're very, very fortunate, Professor Subodha Kumar, to have you this evening with us and morning at your place. So without taking much of your time, I would give the floor to you, Professor.
Thank you, Devjit. Thank you for your kind introduction. I'm really honored to be here. Thank you for inviting me for this talk. So let's get started. And just a little warning, it's a little different talk than usual research talk. I'm not going to talk about one paper, and I had discussed that with Devjit earlier. My idea today is that to give a broad idea of different research problems that I'm working on right now. And I'll be more than happy to take it further. Anybody interested in any of those things to talk more about it and also get some feedback on you. So it's like a series of my working papers. Those are under review or, at different stages, mostly in different domains. Also, I want to bring out one point, and which I think is important for especially PhD students, is that, how to work on a problem. We all want to publish in top journals, but top journals are very limited, and every area has usually 3 top journals. Some areas have 4. But if you work on interdisciplinary problem and it's a good problem, then it's one simple myopic reason why you would do that. Now you can publish that in 6 top journals rather than 3. And it's a good work, it will get published in one of them. That was one reason why I started working on interdisciplinary. So you may think that it was very opportunistic way to think. But then you realize that many times people leave out one important aspect of a problem. If marketing person is working on a problem, they sometimes leave out inventory problems. If operations person is working, they don't look at IT issues or pricing issues. So that basically gives a lot of low-hanging fruits to work on, and you can capture a lot of good problems out of that. So my topics I'm putting them in 2 broad domains of business analytics. So I work on a series of problems on data analytics, where I work with mostly econometric models, some predictive models, and machine learning, which is my newer interest. And on the decision modeling side, I have mostly work on different kind of math models. My basic training, and I was very pleased to see when Devjit was saying you have a strong OR group. I will say my basic training was in OR when I was doing my PhD at UTD. That program was very OR oriented. But later on, I worked a lot on game theoretic model and dynamic optimization problems as well. So I will try to see in each of the domains how I have worked on that. And a couple of pieces that I have written, and I'm writing a few more on promoting interdisciplinary research. I think that's a very important for uh, for making both impact in industry as well as for business school in general. We have to get out of that silo and work across the aisle. That's the only way we can create more impactful research, because in businesses the problems don't emerge because of one discipline. Problems emerge because of how the businesses run. And I think that's extremely important to think. And at my center, when I work, we work on a lot of industry problems. And I usually seek help of not only business school faculty, I sometimes go to biomedical engineering, sometimes medical school. I have also been working, and of course, with information systems and marketing faculty. Sometimes I have to go to strategy faculty. So, by nature, the business problems are like that. Now, and also I have, those who are interested, this book I had written, and the whole idea of this book was that, and by the way, this link I have put here, anybody interested, you can always go there, and there's a QR code, those who like to scan. And you can find any of my papers, and I will be happy to talk more later on that. And in this book, I'll talk a little later. I have tried to compile in some of the book chapter links. Now, I have a lot of bullet. I don't plan to finish all of them in an hour. I will go as far as we can go, and I'll go based on how many questions you have. So please feel free to stop me at any point and ask questions. I'm also keeping an eye on the chat on my other screen, but Devjit will moderate that. But feel free to ask questions on that. Now, one thing, and which I have heard many times, when you see, well, you have put like 10 bullets, so that means you're very unfocused in your research. And I have heard that all my career. As soon as I graduated, the very first comment, very senior faculty in the area told me, you are very unfocused. And, interestingly, one of our PhD students, I told him the same thing when I was assistant professor. We had a PhD student, Param Singh, who is at CMU now. I think his cohort of Pankaj. And I had told him, see, and he was like that, when he was PhD student, I think he was working on 8 or 9 projects. And I told him one day, see, I keep hearing this, I'm very unfocused. So I'm totally not against it, of course, because I like it. But you should be aware of that. He continued that, I continued that. I think uh, that has played well in long run, although it's a risky stride. Now, second reason why you see so many topics is that every 3 to 4 years of my career, I've kind of tried to work on a new PhD dissertation. And that has been my strategy throughout my career. Now, what do I mean by a PhD dissertation is that I will pick a new topic as well as new methodology and see how I can do. And I sincerely do that. I get books. I have taken courses when I was at Texas A&M. I have taken full semester courses, taken means set in the class, not taught, in economics department, and learn new topics. And I still keep doing that as much my time permits. So my basic starting, my dissertation was on digital advertising in '98, before even Google started. So it was very challenging at that time. And so my first few years was that. Then next few years, I went into IT and platform management. I started working on that and supply chain. Then I moved more towards omni-channel and healthcare. More recent had been social media. And I will say most recent is blockchain and sustainability area, which you see the first and last. Those are my latest interests. And I'm getting more into the machine learning based method, but I never stopped working on that. So let me get started with first topic. As I told, please feel free to stop me. Sometimes I'll go fast. Some of the problems I'll spend a little more time. But in the interest of time, I may not go into detail of each of the papers. So in blockchain, of course, there are a lot of problems coming. The very first paper that we are planning to submit very soon to this management science spatial issue um, is about what is the issue with the scaling. And in blockchain, one of the big problem is about scaling, that scalability is not good. And we took the Bitcoin context because that's where a lot of data is available. And Bitcoin has, the Bitcoin platform has tried to work on this scalability problem. So we took that data and tried to see whether those scalability solutions are working or not. So just to give you a quick idea in Bitcoin, those who are not aware, I'm sure most of you are already aware of that. But in Bitcoin platform, a transaction is initiated by the sender, and then sender can be a service provider or a customer, but they start the transaction. And then there are miners who mine the transaction. And then once the miner is done, there is a delay in that. And then the receiver, who can again be a service provider or customer, receive the confirmation. Now, the thing is that one of the issue that is a problem is because of this delay. No, nobody likes this delay, and many businesses are apprehensive about this delay. And second is that how much size of the transaction can go in a block. So what they did, they created a fork, what they call is a new protocol they started called SegWit. So before SegWit, and this all happened in last 3-4 years, in the SegWit, they had each block had a signature inside that. They told that let's take signature outside the transaction. It will have more space for transaction in each block. So block size can accommodate more transaction, so things will get faster. So this is what we are thinking here. So that's what they did. Now, some of the firms basically captured that. Some of the firms did not utilize this SegWit based transaction. So we tried to collect data about that. And we took data from 29 prominent service providers. And all the transactions that we took in our data was around $1.13 trillion in our sample period. And, you know, as I told, I'm not going into details. It's econometric modeling, as you could think. It's more of the difference in difference kind of method. And here we try to see what happened. Two aspects mainly we look at. One is that average fee per size before and after SegWit for both customers and service provider. So what we see here is that you see this line, and you know, it just even without controlling everything, you can see that the fees has actually gone up for customers. So one of the things they told always about SegWit is that fees will go down. Now, it little bit went down for service provider, but customer clearly it went up. And the delay, which is the biggest concern in blockchain right now, that blockchain is not scalable. When the number of transactions increase, it becomes slow. The delay also did not really go down. And then we have little more insight into that. So I'm trying to extend this series of work on trying to understand that how blockchains can be designed for different kind of businesses going forward. And I strongly believe that blockchain is going to revolutionize the way we are thinking. Now, so this is the taking the data analytics approach. Now, how do I take into the decision analytics approach? So as I told, my approach has been, I start with the data, work on the data analytics problem, and try to bring it to the optimization aspect. So one of the problems that you're working on that how should firms decide when to adopt and when not to adopt? Now, this is one of the papers with a PhD student from Tsinghua University in China, where, you know, those who are aware, they have very high quality PhD students. In fact, I'm working with 4 of them, and you know, those are among the best I have ever worked with. So this paper we have submitted to MSOM, and I will go a little bit details of this paper as well. So the basic idea of this whole advertising market, as we all know, it has gone very high. You know, in 2019, it was three or four billion dollars, and it is increasing very fast. And whatever happened after the pandemic, we see even a rise in the online advertising. Now, these numbers are rising, but at the same time, there are a lot of challenges. The first challenge is ad fraud. Ad fraud is still a big problem in online advertising. So around 40% of traffic uh, is coming from bot these days, and which is costing advertiser around $16 billion. Now, this is clearly a huge problem, and different firms are trying to do things about that. But we don't have a very good solution, and clearly blockchain presents a good solution. Another problem is middlemen. So there are a lot of commission goes on. There are a lot of ad firms which take money. And one of the ad firms that I have worked very closely with in Boston, it was earlier called Chitika. Now they moved to Sidewalk. And I know that the big ad firms like Google and all, they can take 60 to 70% even sometimes of the money, but easily more than half of the money can go to middleman. So advertiser is giving to publisher, but half of the money goes to it. Now, the third thing is that delayed payment. Sometimes payments are not paid on time because there is a holdout and so on. So how blockchain really helps here? So there are a lot of blockchain provider basically coming in play for ad world. So digital advertising, we see these are the companies, some of the companies which are there, and more are coming actually. And a lot of companies have started using that. Toyota is using that, and they are using different platforms for their ads. And those ads have shown to work better for companies like Toyota and many others. So what is the positive and negative? So blockchain really cut down the ad fraud. It's very difficult, as we all know. Blockchain is highly indelible data and high security, but there is a blockchain fee. So that's the negative side of blockchain, that you will have a blockchain fee for it. On the publisher side, the positive side is that there is no middleman, so middleman is gone. But then they have no room for manipulation. So those publishers who were, as I told, a lot of data come from bots. Now they don't have room for any manipulation. So we model this as a game theoretic paper, and the questions we are asking here is that should the publisher assign the spot with the more click to the blockchain based advertiser or to the traditional advertiser? So now these publishers are getting ad from both kind of advertisers. Some are using blockchain, some are not using blockchain. So how to distribute their slots? Because slots are very important in digital advertising. And the question for advertiser is that whether they should adopt blockchain or stay in traditional channel. And then we look at different sensitivity and so on. Now, if you think of the math, it's pretty straightforward here. The basic thing is the idea you solve. Setup is a game, and then you find the Nash equilibrium and so on, and do sensitivity. So bigger picture is after that is not too. Another area that I'm working, and this is with a company in Philadelphia, started by doctors, where they are trying to do a lot of AI in healthcare. And I had given, ISB has a business analytics program where I had given this project for the capstone project. And this was the best capstone for last two batches, actually. Now everything is on hold for them because of COVID. But last two batches, they ran, these two of the project were the best capstone project. So let me talk about that. And of course, now we are writing papers on that. So the first one was about diabetic foot disease problem. And, there's a big problem. There's a lot of cost involved in that, and a lot of amputations are happening every day. So it's a huge problem, much more than what we realize. So what we did in this problem was that, and now this is the device which is created by the company, where they do use thermal imaging. So we have used all aspects of analytics that we talk about in classes here. And one good thing is that journals, business school journals, are now being very open to publishing this kind of work, which was not there. Very recently, we published a paper in ISR, which was analytics based, and also one in POM. So we took all statistical model. I'll talk a little bit more about how we did that, and then data mining. Then we went into deep learning and data visualization part. Now, this is not a published work, so I don't know how they will react. But at least the problem idea that we are writing here is that we took these thermal images, we looked at different edges and contours. We used deep learning method to do all the segmentations. And then finally, we denoise the filters. And the basic idea was using the hierarchical clustering, we can say what is the similarity between healthy and unhealthy patients. And then we create these clusters around that. And then based on that, we try to basically distance between two patients, get rid of the difference in healthiness quotient. That's how we did. And then using deep learning, we try to do proactive food care classification. So how can we say without doing any incision, how can you predict whether this foot is bad or there is any problem going to come and so on. So and some of the details I have put in here, we use the neural network model to do that. The outcome here is that what are the different features which need further interpretation, what is the which needs further clinical interpretation in terms of the patient assessment, and then how we can design proactive food care. Now the question comes is that what is the business school interest in that? You can always ask this kind of question. And if I get a paper as an editor, I'll always ask that question. So what is business school doing here? You have to realize the business school was designed to be a school where we will provide practical solution, not just doing theoretical research. And we are business school is trying to do a couple of things. First, how can we bring in these tools that we are talking about, the cutting edge tools, to help in healthcare diagnosis. Now, at the broad level, if you think you are just improving healthcare operations. So this comes as a part of healthcare operations, where you are trying to use all these tools and methods to improve the problem. So I don't think we should be worried too much about that. I know not everybody agrees with me on that, but I think if we are able to solve this problem with the skills we have, I think clearly it comes in our domain. On similar line, I just want to introduce that, not going too much detail, is that we also did this pulse wave analytics. And I told I picked these two projects specifically. We have many things going on with this company actually through my center. A lot of masters and doctoral students are involved in the project now. Here we look at the pulse wave for proactively detecting different kind of diseases. Again, we have this company QuantLeap. They have collected all the pulse wave data, and interestingly, Temple University have one of the largest pulse wave data that they have collected for many years. So we are also tapping into that, and we use different kind of again analysis here, and based on that we try to look at for early prediction of diseases using pulse signals. Also, we are using different kind of features that can be added as an extension, and the potential application in cardiopathy and other areas. So some of these are going little bit, getting into hardcore of healthcare. That's why I'm working right now with Johns Hopkins, University of Maryland Medical School, University of Washington Medical School, because somewhere it is way out of my domain knowledge. But one thing I try to do, I try to learn domain knowledge a lot, but this is where I'm really, things are getting out of line. And then, I didn't know where to put them. So there are a couple of papers. One of them we are revising for management science right now, which we have reject resubmit, which I think is becoming a norm. Now management science have created an extra category called reject resubmit officially. So now every editor like to pick that rather than revise resubmit. This is a debate we had at POM also. Should we have reject resubmit as a category? So I collected data. Actually, management science used to have long back. MISQ used to have for some time. Marketing science had it for some time too. And whatever I could talk to people, it seems that whenever this is a separate category, the editors tend to choose this in the first round over revised resubmit. So that kind of little bit hurt, especially PhD students and all. But so it's a tricky thing. Now, what do we do in this paper? This paper is more on what we are hearing a lot about Uber. In Indian context, it's like Uber and Ola competition. US context is Uber and Lyft competition. So this is a big thing. We all know about that. But the problem we are looking at is to look at the holistic approach. That's why I say that, combining operations and IT aspect here, we look at both supply and demand side. Most of the people look at one side or the other. So we look at what happens to the impact of price and wait time on the perception of consumer about the platform, and then what is the impact of initial relative perception? Can they charge higher price? Like if um, Uber started earlier, they have more higher perception, then they can charge higher price. Is dynamic pricing really needed, which Uber really advertise? Now, if you think in China, Didi has a very different approach than some of these guys. So it's an interesting problem to see that do they really need dynamic pricing? And if customers are more sensitive to waiting, does it help? Sometimes it can help. Again, we take a game theoretic approach to solve this problem. And as I told, we are still we are in the process of revising that. Relative perception really means here, Arimitra, is that you can think of it like if everything else same, if the prices are same, which one I will pick? Let's say that I'm waiting in a mall, I have to book Uber and Ola. Given I know that both are giving me exactly same price, which one I will take? That's the relative perception. So something that is in addition to your just pricing. Okay. So that is a relative perception. And we all have that. We all have one favorite for whatever reason. But how that favorite develops, that is the point here. That's what we are modeling. So it's a dynamic model. So it's more like a differential game model where we see how perception develops over time. And then I have another paper with some faculty at IIM Bangalore where we are trying to look at the subscription model. IIM Bangalore, I have very active collaboration with several faculty. The only reason I used to visit Bangalore very often because my brother-in-law was there, so I got that connection. But maybe next time I'll certainly visit Ahmedabad more. This paper, we are kind of trying to see how to do the subscription versus paper use models. I'm not going to be. So I'll now switch gear. I'll go to social media. As I told, I'll keep switching. And this one I wanted to spend a little more time because I thought that was more cutting edge and more interesting problems emerging. Now, social media have been working for at least now 6-7 years. The very early work I did some field experiment. Field experiment with a company in New York, and that was my early paper in ISR. I'll not talk too much on that. I'll talk more about my more recent papers. So this paper which you see here, it came in 2018. Now that is also old, around 3 years back. We took a Yelp data, and in 2009, Yelp has added a feature that business owners can go and respond to the comments of the reviewers. So somebody reviewed, put a review, business owners can go and say, well, I'm sorry you didn't like my food and so on. So we tried to see what is the impact of adding that kind of features on businesses as well as on platform in general. So that was the first paper. And then we extended that work and went into a lot of machine learning. Now these two papers are pure machine learning paper. We create new algorithms for detecting the review manipulation in terms of not reviews but reviewers. So how do you detect spam reviewers? So we took a feature engineering approach and we create a supervised learning method and unsupervised learning method. So as I told, the journals are being open to that. And then I have extended, this is the paper I'll talk more about. So the most recent paper, again, this is also reject free submit in management science. This is with another PhD student from Tsinghua. And here what we are trying to do is that do firms strategically allow fake reviews, okay? Which actually I was not aware earlier, but there have been a lot of discussion in that on average in Yelp, reviews lead to 5 to 9% increase in revenue. We all know that, we all look at reviews. So reviews have a big factor. So now businesses are aware of that. So what they are doing, there are sellers who are incentivized to manipulate reviews. So sellers on any platform, they are trying to manipulate these reviews. You can hire individuals, you can use bots, Or you can buy from third-party firm also. They are also selling fake reviews. So what is the impact of that? Because of that, now there are a lot of filtering algorithms. Yelp has their own filtering algorithm. Amazon has their own filtering algorithm. And they have penalty also. So there can be some court action and so on if the reviews are fake. However, fake reviews remain a huge challenge for all the companies. So this paper, this came in 2019, that Amazon's fake review problem is getting worse. CNN had an article in September that TripAdvisor has claimed that up to 1 in 7 reviews might be fake. And again, 74% of consumers have read a fake review in the last year. Now, why aren't platforms doing more? Do we think that really we have to believe that Amazon does not have capability to stop all this? We don't have algorithm. We claim that we can do all the video analytics and we can run robots and we can fly cars. We can't stop fake reviews. So what is going on here? And these are some of the more recent ones. And this is coming on all the forums. Why aren't Amazon doing more about that? The question is that they just need it. Maybe it's not too bad for them having some fake reviews. They don't want all the fake reviews, but some is not too bad. Now, what does it mean? So we basically, there are some empirical studies recently have come that they will try to do some, they will leave some fake reviews, even though they could stop that. So we look at again a game theoretic model here. We look at two sellers, one is high quality, one is low quality, and they both can manipulate reviews. Should I manipulate? That's the question for seller. And the platform's question is that would seller manipulation hurt me or not? So we solve this problem, and am I better off with a more accurate detection algorithm, or sometimes it's okay not to have too accurate? And we have some very interesting result here. This paper got the both in last ICIS in a track. It was the best track paper as well as best track student paper. So this student has done a phenomenal job in the paper. And most of these papers I'm talking, it may look like very cliche, but I'll tell you, this is all because of my very good co-authors. One thing I did good in my life, finding very good co-authors, very smart co-authors, or the co-authors who are smarter than me. And that helped me in growing a lot. And you learn in the process, right? So it's a win-win situation. Now, this paper was actually once started with a marketing IIM Bangalore faculty, Professor Seema Gupta. She had proposed this idea to me in 2015 or 2016, I remember. And we took some time to work on it. It was a long journey in ISR, I think 5 or 6 rounds. Eventually, it is forthcoming. And this is, I'll talk, and we have extensions of this paper in different domain. But here the idea was that to examine the drivers of popularity of human brand. So we took this idea into human brand, not just election. Election is just a context we are saying. But what is the impact of human brand on their social media engagement? Also, what is the spillover effect? Like in this context, what is the impact of candidates' tweets on parties' engagement, or parties' tweet on candidates' engagement? But you can think of any business, like Nestle has a problem with all the Maggie court case problem. Now, whatever is going on with Maggie, does it impact the engagement of other brands of Nestle, right? Should they disentangle those, or should they keep them together? That's another problem I'm working on right now. And I think this whole debate is very interesting, that how firms should react in their social media strategy across brands, because all firms have many different brands within a parent company. So in this one, we took data from December to May, and the election was from April to May. So we had a lot of data before that, and we ended a little bit right after the election. We had 500,000 unique users, and we had 22.8 million tweets that we extracted. We did sentiment analysis to do negative tone and positive tone, and we found a lot of interesting thing on the other end anyway from this tweet, who were the most popular. It is not surprised that who was the most popular or most mentioned name, but the second mentioned name many times is hard to guess. I'll leave it hanging. It's not in the paper, though. We didn't go into those details. It was not Rahul Gandhi, if you guys are thinking. He was not the second mentioned name on social media. Now, we tried different method, and then we ended up knife-based method that came out to be best. And then we went into econometric model. And our goal here was, we first started with retweets, but we have also looked at likes and other things. And the idea was that you see here all the spillover effects are here and the direct effect. And then, of course, after that, you get all the insights. I think rest is all not that complicated, I would say. So this is the most recent work, I will say, in that one. And then we have followed it with some very interesting work. This is another work where Twitter actually in last few years, they have started allowing trademarking of hashtag. Now, this has always been intriguing since the day they announced they allowed trademark of hashtag, because hashtags should be free flow. And then why would firm do trademarks? It all started because McDonald's hashtag was hijacked. Even Coke's hashtag was hijacked for very wrong reasons. So they told us do trademarking. Now, trademarking is not same as copywriting. So it is not like you cannot use it. You cannot use it for wrong reasons. So we tried to see what is the impact of that. We actually just got revision, and fortunately it was not reject resubmit like many other papers. Most of my recent acceptances started with reject resubmit. So I keep telling my students, don't be disheartened. It's a good news. And that's how the world is working right now. Now I have started working now on field experiments. This is the first field experiment we did. Or second one, first one I've not talked about, that was published, I believe, in 2016 or 17. Here we did a field experiment with a company in China. This is one of the largest e-commerce company. And what they do, that when you are purchasing the item, you can send this code to your friends on WeChat. That's what is being used in China. And if based on how many people use it, in the next 30 minutes, you get discount. Your discount can go up to, I believe, 80% if people are using your coupons. And this was a very nice one. Since we worked with the company, we had a lot of control on that. And this one, now we have got the third round in ISR, so we're revising. And the last series of work, working with a company in Philadelphia. He actually, the owner of the company is a clinical faculty in Temple. And in this company, they have an app where in the real time, you can give feedback to any employee, your subordinate, your boss, or your peers, everybody. And you can put comments also. And a lot of companies have adopted this app, and you can be anonymous or non-anonymous. So we have series of experiments we have run with that. The very first one came in ISR. I think this was the most basic study just to look at that. And then the second one, we look at the network embeddedness and their eigenvector and so on. That one we have just revised for ISR again. And we have few more going on. Now, this is the point I will start talking, and I'll go a little bit more into that as we progress, is that, see, all of these problems, when I work on, I always see that what is the IS angle, what is the operations angle, and what is the marketing angle. Now, I focused a lot in IS. Now you're thinking, I claimed my degree is in OM, by the way, my PhD was in OM. But first 8 years I spent in the IS department at University of Washington. So that's why you see that little bit of flavor. A lot of my IS friends don't know my OM background. And, some of them were amazed. This University of Florida Dean Savvy, he was visiting here last year. And he told, I didn't know you have an OM background too. And same thing with some of my OM colleagues. They don't know my IS life. So I put different hat in, depends on the conference I'm in. So, but now I'm going to marketing conferences. And this is one of the work, actually here we have taken data on satirical news and the real news from the same website. And we try to see what is the engagement of satirical versus regular news. I'll not go into detail. Now, how to connect data to models? So remember this paper I talked about social media content by ISR. When I was working on this paper, this was one of my doctoral students who was working on this. And then I told him that there's a very nice optimization problem here, that how to optimize influencer marketing, which is a big problem in marketing, IS, operations, everywhere. So we took the data of this one and we collected more data, and we used the classic network flow problem on optimizing the influencers. And this is now forthcoming in management. And this also started with Trajectory Summit. And then I have some extensions of that that I have worked on that. The last one I'll talk briefly. This is with, again, another student at Tsinghua, as I told, working with multiple students in China. So this one is a interesting phenomena that is coming in China right now and many other parts of the world. The idea is that I'll skip some of the introduction, but the e-learning market is growing, and because of that, all the firms are coming up with the new models in e-learning platforms. So one of the models that they have come up with is that it's called clocking in model. So how does it work? So the idea is that if you want to take this course, you have to participate in some gamification experience. What is the idea of gamification? So for example, if you do something on social media while taking the course, like every day you go and put a post on social media, and if you do it for a month, then your money will be returned to you. Irrespective of how you're performing in the course, that's a different thing. And if you don't do that, then you still learn, and your money they will keep your money. Now, this could be anything. This could be clocking in process, could be anything. Very common is that put on social media, but it could be anyone. So you purchase the course, and then you stick to clock in effort. You get all your course refund. And you can't read it, but this was in Chinese website. But if you fail to clock in, we call it quitter. They pay the course fee, and then you get the course revenue from them. And from these guys, you get future revenue from other sources because they have done some clocking in for you. And there is a word of mouth revenue, and that is the firm's profit. So we do again classic game theoretic model, and we try to decide length of clocking in window and so on. It's an interesting problem. There are a lot of trade-off on that. What is the impact of time window, longer versus shorter window, the optimal window length, and so on. Okay. So that this paper, as I told, we just submitted to ISR. Any questions till now? As I told, my goal is not to go over all of them. I'll go as far as I can go. Any questions? Anybody? Especially PhD students. Any questions?
Unmute and speak as well. Yeah.
Good evening, sir. I am from Niti, Mumbai. I wanted to know if we can do something work in finance and accounting. How can we?
So means the lot of work actually management science has a special issue coming in which I will submit. So my blockchain works are very close to OM finance interface problems. There are a lot of problems are coming in blockchain domain, which will include expertise in OM finance. There's another problem that I'm working, which is very close on finance interface. I'm not talking here. There we have collected data about any negative news about the company that has come in last 15, 20 years. And we try to see that whenever a negative news comes, what is the impact of that on whole supply chain? So there's a lot of work in finance where they look at the company performance and this, that, but people have not looked at the supply chain performance. And I think that's where a very nice interface of OM finance comes, right? So there are, and blockchain, there are a lot of problems like that on OM finance. So Anil, I think there are a lot of problems you can think these days because of the way the fintech brings a lot of OM and finance problems. There's a company, Olocard in Philadelphia. They are now looking at the granular level data to decide that whether this person should get the credit card or not. There are a lot of operations finance interface problem coming. Yeah, so I think there's a lot of opportunity right now.
There's one more question.
I hope.
From Praful, he's asking if there is, from Indian context, do you think this sharing e-learning experience and getting refund model will work?
Yeah, I think so. I think already I heard that some companies are looking into that, Praful. No, it's not just a culture thing. I think in India, the social media structure is not very different. In fact, in WhatsApp, you get so many the good morning messages. So the people can send other kind of messages too. So I don't think there's any huge difference that way. Somebody has to come up with, see, the sustainability of these models are always a big question. If you don't plan it properly, like what should be the time window, what kind of clocking in process you want, it can be a problem. Problem is more with the how to operationalize it rather than with the plan. I think plan is good. And it certainly can work. But if you don't operationalize it well, then what happens? You end up paying a lot of discount or a lot of cash to people, and that's where the problem is. So I strongly believe that can work. Okay, let's
Hello,
go to
Professor.
healthcare.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. I see you've published a lot of papers like which are purely analytical game theoretic models, and you have also published papers which are empirical. So do you also work on mix both these models? Like, do you work on papers where you bring out an analytical model and support that
Very
with
good question.
data?
Thank you, Ganesh, to ask this question. This is a very pertinent question. So how should I combine this? And in a lot of my panels, I have promoted we should combine. But as an author, I'll tell you, I have burned my hands. So if you submit a paper, now we have a page limit. You have to fit everything in 30 pages. So what you do some neat empirical model, then you do some neat analytical model. Now, most of the time it becomes very hard to go deep into either of them because you have to do a lot of robustness, then you have to do a lot of justification for your analytical model and so on. So when you do both of them, the paper does not remain too strong in either of them. And when it goes to reviewers, a editor will pick one analytical, one empirical. Both will say, well, it's not strong in my part at least, right? And the paper gets rejected. So I have done a trick. Now I have a lot of papers where I have combined these two methods. But what I do, I take a stand. So if it is analytical paper, I say that I have done a lot of empirical. I put them in online appendix. But it's a full empirical study, but maybe not as deep as you require for empirical paper. Or on the other hand, if I have analytical model, but empirical is strong, I put empirical as the main thing, and I put analytical in the appendix. So I think that strategy is working well, at least for the time being. People are okay with that. Nobody has questioned. One paper they told remove this appendix. There is no value. You have enough justification for your model. But other places they were fine with that. So in fact, the management science paper, the influencer marketing, now this is online, so you can go read. And if you look at the appendix, it is as good as an empirical paper. I think we could have done empirical paper on that. But reviewers like that part. But still it's not in the main page. So yeah, you can do, but you have to be.
There are two follow-up questions.
I'm reading there. So let me take.
Sure.
Yeah, Jatin says, when do you study in particular country? Is it considered to give similar result? See, no, you cannot. Jatin, that's always a limitation of an empirical study. But the thing is that you can make some insights for other countries, or you can have some conjecture, but you can never guarantee, right? That's where the extensions of the papers come. And but if you're working on a country like China or India or US, it still has a good enough impact to get published. That's the whole point. If you're working on a very small region, let's say, it is only applicable in one city in India, yeah, then I will say this is a questionable thing. But if something it is for India, it's a large country. If my solution can work in India, it's good enough to publish in a top journal. But yeah, you cannot directly take it. Now, Aishwarya is saying, in case of healthcare related problem, do you look at Bayesian model? Yeah. So we are doing that. Aishwarya, I will talk about one of that in a few minutes where we have done that. So clearly, in one of the paper we have done, but a lot of papers we can do. So I'll continue, and as I told, I'll not go till the end, but Aishwarya, I will answer your question in a minute. So this paper actually was based on Practo data. Practo, I assume most of you are aware in India. And here we tried to do one. Practo had a policy change, so we looked at what is the impact of that in reviews and so on that came last year in Uber. Just to give you an idea on that. So since you all know Practo, I'll not repeat it when I present other places I do. So here we tried to see that what is the impact of positive reviews, what is the spillover effect of a doctor response on nearby doctor performance. Again, they had added a feature where doctors can go and respond to the comments of the patients. And what are the negative spillover effect? if some doctor is very good, do get negatively impacted because of competition. And we do the signaling, peer effect, moderating factor. It was an econometric model paper. We have extended this study for China. So now I took the similar data from China, and there we tried to see what is. So you were asking, Jatin, right? So when I went to China, first of all, I could not extend it right away because Indian healthcare works very different from Chinese, and I could not extend it to the US because US works very different. So even research question becomes different. Forget about extending the insight, that was not possible. So the only way I could do, I collected data there and see what is the connection between online consultation and offline appointment. And this we just revised for ISR. And we told that, see, we have a published in Indian context. Reviewers were happy about that fact. And then take to the US context. In the US, we took this healthcare information exchange and we tried to see what is the on healthcare quality. Now, this paper was started before other two, by the way. But as you can see, the number of round, it is going on. They still don't like to call it minor revision, although it is minor revision now. But here we look at the US context. Now the insights, some insights are similar, but some are different. And this is a classic example where you can take from different contexts. Just to give you an idea, and others are similar too. Here we try to look at this healthcare information exchange increases the connectivity between different partners. So we try to look at different benefits. There are a lot of proposed benefits. Are they really there? And we look difference in difference model to analyze that. And then we have extended that for lab test order and so on. It's the same one. The third and fourth are on the same data. But here we look at the test order, which we are revising for ISR. Now this is Aswarya, what you were asking. This one, we took some data from one of the largest hospitals in the US, and we have created a predictive model that you take all this data, and we are using a Bayesian model for that. And we try to see that using all the experience and all, can you create a personalized treatment plan for breast cancer patients? Where most of the plans right now are standard doses. So here we are using all of that information from medical professionals using Bayesian model. And this was tough sell actually. ISR was again saying that what is here for IS, but the reviewers guided us on the line of design science approach. So this is not a typical paper, not an econometric model where you do. Here you're designing a system using Bayesian approach to create optimal doses, right? So it is not a classic problem. But it came through, and I think at the end we could satisfy all the reviewer concern. You have to be a little lucky for this kind of papers too. But I think reviewers are being open. Still maintain mainly telemedicine laws. Yeah. Means, I will talk a little bit about this telemedicine part, Paramjit. But telemedicine is going to stay for quite some time. What is happening with retailing and all, where people have moved to online and people are going to stay. A lot of telemedicine are going to stay because a lot of rules have already been devised that how payers will pay and all those kind of things. And you know, Paramjit, on the same line, when you talk about all the rules, this was an interesting idea. In China, there's an interesting concept called when you go to see the doctor, after your treatment, you can pay some gift to doctors. Right? Now, this is a cultural thing. This is clearly a cultural thing. Now, the question is that, does that gift impact what kind of service you get? This is on top of all your fees and all. China has this culture of gift. Right? So we try to see that, is it a good or bad thing in the medical idea, and especially in online medical, how does it work? And that we are revising. And then I have some papers on operational performance. I'll not get into too much detail of that. Those are very operational paper. I think those are the papers which are harder to sell in any other area. So I will still do some work which are very strictly operations or IS. And this series of work is like that, some of the policy papers and all. The last one was a CMS project, Center for Medicare and Medicaid Studies. So we worked with them. And then I took these problems especially the healthcare, the problem what you see here, which is in 5th round in management science. When I was working on this problem, I started working on this analytical modeling paper that took the same data but create analytical model. So first one was game theoretic model, second is OR model. So, I still go back to my OR roots. And, both ways with the company, we implemented both of these at the company. This one was, both were in Texas, but different companies. And yeah, I'm not going to too much detail on that. And I do some, again, here we have used Astoria, some of those Bayesian model for the last paper also. But that goes more on the OR side. Okay. Now I'm coming towards the end. So I will try to take any more questions. I can talk about very quickly 1 or 2 topics. And as I told you, my plan was not to finish that. There's no questions, I'll just continue. So omni-channel retailing is something I'm working for last 15 years at least. I started working when I was in Seattle with Nordstrom. I did several projects for them. But more recently, what we have looked at, first project we looked at, or one of these projects we look at what is the impact of online versus offline sales. Let me take questions, Shantan. Trade-off involved in the game theoretic formulation of fake review identification problem. Yeah, so basically, the trade-off is very simple, Shantan. See what happens if a publisher is doing fake reviews, or you're talking about fake review or the click fraud? I think you're talking about fake review. Okay. So in fake review and fake review identification by the platform, I think that's the problem you're talking about. So if the platform identify the fake reviews, then it may impact the sales on the platform. Right? Sometimes it can be negative, but the positive side will be they will have more belief or trust on the system. So it's a short-term versus long-term problem for platform. Now, same thing for the sellers. If they do fake review, then they may get better sales, but in the long run, they may have legal problems as well as the reputation problem. So that's the trade-off. And I'll be more than happy to share, because that paper, ISIS version, actually you can find the ISIS version is online now. So you can find that version, and ISIS has pretty long. So what we do in the first problem is that we try to see when a store opens the physical store, what happens to the online sales. And we use a DID model for that. And then we took this one. Now this one, you will see the real view, and I'll kind of stop with that. So we took the IS problem, and then we took the marketing side of it, where we look into channel choice. And then we took operation side of it, where we look at how to detect the abusive returners who buy the item with the purpose of returning. So you take the similar domain, and actually data is also part of the data is common in these 3 papers. One is very IS oriented, one is marketing, and one is operations. Marketing one is still going on, but the other 2 finally we got published. And then we extended again, this is again very OM marketing interface. This paper I could submit to OM or marketing, because it talks about you have some inventory management software in the system, how it impacts your marketing. Now, how do you take it to the analytical model? Again, we converted that into the paper on how firms decide strategy to stop showrooming. Okay, and this was actually based on this data that we started, and we did. This was with one of my ISB initial project. Again, I'll in the interest of time, I'll not get into the details. And then I don't want to hold you longer, so I'll stop here. But another area that I wanted to talk was digital advertising. I think there's a lot of work is still going on, and I continue doing. I also wrote a book on that a few years back, and some of these the recent ones are very, very interesting. This is with some of my PhD students. I work on IT and platform management. That is my area. Some of the earlier work also could be categorized as platform management. And again, I have a combination of IS and operations here, mostly. Not as much I have delved into marketing side of that, but mostly IS and OM. And supply chain is always there. That's my PhD. And so I work on supply chain problems. The most recent one I'm doing is on sustainability and humanitarian. And this is more like my interest, harder to publish, but I think I can publish. Almost all of that I have published in form. This was with China government we did on creating a model for them on how to detect the environmental violators. And then I have some papers on trading models, like Patagonia is doing this kind of model. So I work on that trading program. I'll stop. Okay, so that you don't blame me for holding you very long. Okay, so I hope I'm on time, Devjit. I'm happy to
on
take any more
time.
questions.
There are a few questions that you would like to take a few.
Subodha, I have a question for you.
Yeah, yes, Pankaj, go ahead.
One, thank you so much for the talk. I'm sure the PhD students here, hopefully they picked on the ways to create a portfolio like yours, or at least go in that direction. A couple of things I noted, and I hope PhD students have listened or noted these as well. I'm really impressed by the fact that you would sit in the class and almost start a new PhD, like you said, every couple of years, and then the fact that you are doing interdisciplinary research, and I myself did that. My PhD was in Michigan State in supply chain and IT both, and I've kind of gone both directions. My question, and one thing also I noted is that you always are picking very innovative contexts. The phenomena that you're studying is very innovative. So my question is, how do you identify that this is a good research question to study? Or what is it, especially for PhD students, what would you say is a characteristic of a good research question, and a question that they should think worthwhile to spend their time on?
Yeah. Now, Pankaj, thank you for asking this question. This is very important. And I always tell there are some problems that I can work on, which I enjoy working still, like machine scheduling problem, right? I will work on that, but I will never allow my PhD student to work on it. So I tell my PhD student, the problem you should work on something that will be hot when you go to the job market, not what it is hot now. Okay, that doesn't matter. Now, how do I predict that? I think the best predictor is that, like my showrooming paper came from this Wall Street Journal article I was reading. So I mostly go by where I think industry is going. And the few best sources I pick is Forbes, Wall Street Journal, and Business Week. They always keep coming with, and Forrester keeps coming with this report that what is going to be hot in next 3 years. So I first look at that and see that what are the business problems that is coming. And I will say 80 to 90% of the time it works well. It is risky, but that's the only way PhD students can stand out in the market. Now, most of my PhD students have placed well even in the first time. And the reason was that they pick on this one paper, they worked on this fancy topic. So at least one of your papers should be on a very cutting edge topic, which will be hot in 3 years from now. And try to guess that. So I have one course I do always in first semester for the student. There I spend a lot of time discussing with them what you think is going to be hot and you should work on that paper. And I try to counter that. No, it will die down in a year. And they actually, most of this idea come eventually from a student then. They counter argue every week to me, no, that is going to stay. And we come up with the thing. So there's no one formula, but I can tell you reading these articles, thinking about what will be hot in 3 years from now, I think that works out pretty good. Okay. And then finding data becomes challenge, I know sometimes. Then that's where, one good thing is that a lot of collaboration in China right now, and their privacy laws are very weak, where and they are very open to share data. Companies say, come and run experiments. Whereas in India and US, data is tricky. They are not very open to share data. I think in India is very challenging, at least in my experience in getting data. US I had more success. Then I say, start with analytical model, and then get into data. Okay, and that's what most of them. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, very good. Thank you so much.
I see one question. Healthcare analytics would change dramatically. It's already changing. Actually, Paramjit, I'm working with different entity in India, mostly through ISB. ISB has a center on healthcare, and I work with them on different companies. And I think it is changing. It's a slow move. Because still I realize, and I didn't know that, only around 10% of healthcare data in India is digital. Whereas in the US, almost all of the data is digital. So even reaching to that point is not straightforward. But we are getting there. I will not claim that we will get there in next 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. Like there's a company called LV Prasad in Hyderabad, some of you might have heard. So I'm working like 7, 8 projects with them right now. So we have a wide array of projects, and they are little advanced on digitization of data. But even there, getting data becomes tough. But there's a lot of interest and a lot of enthusiasm. There are good people working on that. So I'm very hopeful that we will see that. Ganesh asked about 3D printing. 3D printing is bringing a lot of new problems. One very interesting problem came in management science. It was published last year or last to last year on spare parts 3D printing. And that paper was with a faculty from Duke and his student who is now faculty at Penn State. Very nice paper. You should read that. And there are a few papers in POM we have just accepted that will come. So yeah, 3D printing is bringing a lot of interesting supply chain problems. The only challenge is that some people take the old problem of reliable supplier versus unreliable and call it 3D printing. That's not going to sell. That get rejected. So we have to think of the new problem that is coming. Yeah, I like Praful your comment. I will not go that far, but yeah, it's good. Thank you for your comment. And Jatin, which could change drastically post-COVID. Yeah, and one more industry their list talked about, but would have huge impact once we are back to new normal. See, I don't know whether we are there are lot, everybody's talking about COVID, in POM, we got more than 100 papers on COVID. So I will not say we are not talking, but in my mind, the biggest industry which will be disrupted will be retail industry. The whole nature is going to be very different. Healthcare is going to be very different, as I told. We will not behave the way we are doing. But a lot of touching industry like construction industry, they are getting overwhelmed. The office culture will be very different after we go, right? So a lot of disruptions will happen. Food delivery companies. I was working with one food delivery company. I'm still working in Philadelphia. And the kind of data I'm seeing is very different. And even though things are getting back to normal a little bit, people have changed. So consumer behavior has changed because of COVID. And that's where a lot of research problem comes, right? So now since people are behaving differently, we need to solve that problem that we have not seen. So I will see a lot of that. Any other questions? Feel free to.
I think all questions are all about admiring you, about your diversity, right? How you're even managing such variety of topics and doing equally well, both in breadth and width, right? So that is something we all are quite fascinated with. In fact, Savari's remark is the same thing. How do you manage all these different areas of industry updates?
How you manage? I didn't read the whole thing. Okay, industry update. That's what I told you. Find the very good co-authors who are smarter than you. Okay, and then the problem becomes very simple. And who are innovative. I think PhD students are the biggest source. I'll tell you without jokes apart. But PhD students always help me in evolving and learning things. That's the important part. So I think any school PhD student, if you're a PhD student, I think you should play a very important role in not only growing yourself, but growing your faculty. I think that's how the whole institution is going to survive.
Sure.
Time management. Yeah, Jatin, I try to do, that is the part we're still working. I wish I'm not the best one on that, but we're trying to work it out. But I try to spend with any working paper. I will at least have one discussion per week for sure. That's what I try to do.
Sure.
It gets challenging. I have 2 teenage daughters now, so time becomes a little bit of a crunch because of that.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Subodha Kumar. It was fascinating hearing all the different areas and all the work. In fact, we need definitely some sessions from you on how do you manage time for sure. In spite of I know how much editorial responsibilities you have, still you're managing this. It's fascinating. Very thank you so much from whole IMA fraternity and who are all here. And we hope that sometime in the future we can host you in person in the campus.
Thank you very much for having me. I always wanted to give a talk, but somehow I was not able to visit. So I'm very happy that it happened, and I'm more than happy to visit you guys in my next
Thanks,
trip.
Bodha. In some good times, you have to be here physically too, so it's still due.
Yes. We'll certainly plan, Pankaj. Thank you.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you all for joining. Thank you.
Thank you all.